When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everybody. This is Mark Ludlow with the Fearless Mindset Podcast, and today we have the legend, Gina Osborn, straight from Orange County, served time in the Army, served time in the FBI, and yeah, what an honor it is to have you. I know you're in demand out there from what I'm hearing on LinkedIn, seeing the traction and being on TV shows and stuff, so great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Legend, I'll take that.
So you've seen a lot of things in the Army. You're a counterintelligence spy. You busted a lot of Russian spies, probably, I'm guessing, over there. And what was that like?
Gosh, it was a dream come true for a girl, a former cocktail waitress from Orange County, California, moving from that into becoming a counterintelligence agent over a 6-month period. That's what I love about the Army, is they definitely, or the military, they train you to do whatever career that you choose. But yeah, it was really exciting. It was back in the 80s, near the end of the Cold War, and I was on a team that investigated the highest profile espionage cases in the European theater. So yeah, it was very cool.
What was the biggest thing that they're stealing from the U.S. government?
It was secrets. So the Soviets were definitely into trying to find humans to share classified information, all of our secrets. And so we went after those people. If they were military members, if they were contractors for the U.S. government, or for the military, DOD, we went after those folks. And so one of the cases that I worked was a case involving a gentleman by the name of Albert Sambalay. It was during Desert Storm time, and he had belonged to an artillery unit, and he was trying to sell troop deployment information on his buddies who were actually in Kuwait blowing the scuds out of the sky. Wow. So this guy, he wound up getting 34 years in prison, and I got to watch him get arrested across the street from his house. So that was one of my top moments in my law enforcement career.
Wow. What a trip. Now, did you ever have the movie Salt? I was watching your podcast, and when I was listening to your podcast from other people, shows you're on, I just had a vision of you being Salt over in Germany. I just had that thing going through my head, busting people and all that. Did you ever have fear of your life at any time back then?
We were out in undercover on the streets and on the Autobahn, doing car chases and in the shadows and doing all of those things. So I don't really think about how dangerous it probably was, just because I had a team around me most of the time, but I'd been in car accidents. My husband at the time was chased by German Polizei border guard dogs. They thought he was a terrorist, so they let them loose on him. So, we had some pretty interesting experiences that probably weren't that safe, but we got through them.
Wow. That's wild. I don't think I had that much action when I was in the Marine Corps. Now, you also are expert in cyber warfare, cyber forensics and all that. And everybody knows about the pipeline that was shut down by foreign agents over probably Russia, I'm guessing. What is your biggest thoughts on the biggest threats right now in the United States as a foreign sovereign country? What do you see as new threats coming towards our direction?
I would say cyber threats are up at the top of the list. That and counterterrorism. The Bureau's, the FBI's top priorities are counterterrorism, counterintelligence, and cyber. But when you look at the cyber war, I think the next war will be a cyber war, just based on what we're seeing from North Korea hitting Sony Pictures Entertainment to China and Iran and Russia, all conducting cyber attacks against this country. I think it's a significant concern, and I think we're only as strong as our weakest link. And a lot of the times, the weakest link is the employee who isn't observing cybersecurity rules, and they're clicking on the link. And once they click on that link, they're inviting malware into the system. So you're only as strong as your weakest link. So I would give advice to corporations that they need to really look at training their people and making sure, because they can spend a ton of money on firewalls and all of the things that'll keep them safe from the outside in. But if you've got somebody who's letting them through the back door, you're not going to be very effective.
Right. Now lately too, I've been getting a lot of those emails, like weird, odd emails coming in. I'm like, who's this? And then a spam probably, or they probably, what did they flow like an ISP number with that email to link it or something? Is that how that works in the back end?
Well, it's malware going in. I mean, if there's a link, then can be malware attached to it, and then that can get into your system. So really, I mean, anytime you get any offers, or if you look at the URL, or if you look at the sender, it'll say, something, but it won't have anything to do with Chase, although it's a Chase email saying that your account's been violated. So I would say if you have any concerns that maybe something happened to your account, whether it's an Amazon account or a bank account, I would just call to find out versus clicking on the link and then learning later that was a bad thing.
Okay. Good advice for corporations out there. Now, I think corporations are dealing with something they never thought they'd see. I mean, employee theft was a big one. And now you have the cyber thing, and you're part of that investigation with Sony, right? And you saved their bacon on that whole situation.
I'll just say my team,
Your team
investigated it and identified it was North Korea very, very early on in the investigation. But I think that was the first time that we saw psychological warfare deployed on the victims, because they exfiltrated everything, content, movies, scripts, emails between the executives, and they were putting them out on Pastebin like every 3 days. So, I mean, imagine being an employee and, seeing that your social security number and all of your personal information is out in the wind. And you just didn't know what they were going to release every 3 days. So it was very interesting to see how they wanted to damage the reputation of Sony Pictures Entertainment all over a movie called The Interview that didn't depict their leader in a positive light. And that's what it was all about.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Wow. Learned something new today.
Yeah.
So they got a little upset about that movie.
They were very upset about that movie. And if anybody saw it, you'll know at the end. I don't want to ruin it for anybody in case they want to go and watch it. But at the end, it was James Franco and Josh. Why can't I remember his last name?
Sorry.
Yeah, they went out and, they went to North Korea and they got friendly with Kim Jong-un. But it was interesting because I don't think there has ever been in a movie like a real living leader that's been, killed in a movie. So yeah, they were not happy with it, and they were going to make sure that it didn't get released. And one day, I think it was like the week before Thanksgiving, everyone went to work and all of the computers were paperweights.
Wow, it's amazing they can do that from over there through the internet. It's just, I don't have a techie mind. I'm like, how the heck do they do that? But they have engineers in the background doing it, probably with Russia and Iran and all those guys getting together, I'm guessing.
Well, I would say that they are creating warriors. I mean, these are cyber warriors, and it's their job 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day or however many hours a day. And that's to hack into critical infrastructure or clear defense contractors or the government. If you look at SolarWinds and how, they got into the government. So yeah, it's very scary out there. And so, like I said, that'll be the next war we have will be a cyber war.
So everybody thinks we're going to probably get invaded by China and Russia. They're going to bomb us, but they can do more collateral damage on a business by the billions of dollars versus sending ships and troops on U.S. soil. The damage is more significant cyberly.
Right. If you can shut out the lights, if you can, have something happen to the water supply, if you can, just, looking at what happened, with the oil and stopping that. So yeah, it's, you can do a lot of damage from cyber hacks and shutting it down. And I don't think it's going to be, if they went after our critical infrastructure, it may not be a couple of days. It could be a year where we're out of electricity. So if we really get into a war like that, but I think it's the same like a nuclear war. Who wants to make the first attack? Although we're having a lot of these, these are significant attacks that are going on. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Now, did you always have an interest in the techie side of like law enforcement? Was that always something that you had a knack for, and being like a lot of mathematics and stuff like that? I'm sure in coding, that it takes a certain mind just to get into that. Were you always wired that way?
No, I have no technical aptitude whatsoever.
Wow.
But I'm a good leader.
You are a good leader. Ask the FBI. They'll vouch for you.
That's all I really needed. When when I was on our inspection staff, for us to be able to make it to the next level, to the executive level, and promote that way, you have to do 18 months on the mothership. And so I went back to the inspection staff, and the FBI goes out and inspects all the field offices once every 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I went and did about 30 inspections. And during that time, nobody wanted to inspect the cyber programs because nobody had that technical background. Well, I didn't have the technical background, but I raised my hand. You know, in the military, we learned not to volunteer for anything.
Right.
However, I volunteered for that. And then after a few inspections, I became the subject matter expert when it came to program management for FBI cyber. So that kind of went on for about 18 months. And the next thing you know, they had an opening in Los Angeles for the first assistant special agent in charge of cyber and computer forensics. So I raised my hand for that, and I did that job for about 11 years. So it's all about, if you don't have any technical skill, I'll give you some advice.
Okay.
Don't lead from the front, because that's not going to work, because you'll turn around and you'll see that there aren't a whole lot of people following you if you don't have the technical chops and you're leading technical people. And the other thing is, all I had to do, I turned into a servant leader, and I just kept the horses on the reservation and made sure everybody had everything they needed to do their job. And it took some time because they had to learn to trust me, because all they saw was just another executive coming in to, lead their team who had no expertise whatsoever. So, but I did know where the money was back at headquarters, and I did know how to build things. And I had a lot of friends in Los Angeles as far as, potential task force partners. So I contributed in other ways, and we wound up just getting along really great. And I was in that job for about 11 years.
That's pretty impressive. That's like a wow thing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And what I liked about it, because cyber agents are a lot different than regular agents, whether they're criminal agents or counterterrorism agents, these cyber folks are so creative and innovative, and they really want to go out there and do these amazing things. And you can't really lead them the same way that you would other agents, because, you have to sort of prop them up and give them the opportunity to, do all of these things that have never been done before. So as long as, they wanted to go out and run like the wind, I was there to support them. And it was just a really, really great experience. We wound up becoming the largest cyber and computer forensics program in the entire FBI out here in LA.
And you were part of that.
I was there, keeping the horses on the reservation and getting them everything they needed to do their jobs.
Horses on the reservation. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever have moments during that time where you were like freaked out of your mind, have a moment of fear where you're like, can I really do this? Can I really pull this off? Will these people really follow me?
On my third day, I had reached out to all of my supervisors every day, my young squad supervisors. And some of them weren't that young, but they were all younger than me. And I would just reach out to see how they're doing. And by the third day on the job, I reached out to them again. And one of my cyber supervisors told me, you really don't need to call me every day or call us every day. They'll call us, we'll call you. That was pretty much it. And I thought, But that's when as a leader, I really needed to find a way to contribute. What can I do to help them so that they're going to want to hear from me? Right. Maybe not every day, but maybe they would come to me on personnel issues or other things like that. And really it's just a matter of getting them to trust me and me to trust them. And it was just such a great opportunity to develop the young leaders coming up behind me. I really enjoyed that too. So, it was, I don't want to say it was magical, but, just when you pick a great team, over and over and over again. And for 11 years, I had just amazing teams and generation of teams. Yeah, it was just amazing, the things that they could do, because the sky was the limit. I made sure that everybody knew that the sky is the limit. If you can dream it, you can do it. Just tell me how I can help.
And what was your secret sauce for them to follow you as a leader? What was that secret thing you did?
I'd say giving everybody ownership in the program. And it wasn't mine to give because it was everybody's program, but everybody had to feel like they had ownership in it. Mm-hmm. And when you have a workforce that feels like they have ownership, and they can contribute and their contributions are appreciated, that's when they're going to want to contribute more. That's when morale is going to soar. That's when productivity is going to soar. So really making sure that everybody knows that this is your program. I'm just kind of the steward of this program. I'm the captain of the ship. However, you guys are the ones who are making it go in the direction that it's going. So I think they appreciated that, and they did great work.
Wow. Did you guys go out for like steak dinners and stuff whenever they had a big project or like a big win? You guys was like a reward system in the FBI back then for doing like being rewarded for, accomplishing a mission, whatever that was?
So they have the Director's Award and the Attorney General's Award. Mm. And then that comes out once a year, and they kept winning that over and over and over. So we'd all go out to Washington, D.C., and I'd get to watch them walk across the stage. and they brought their families, and they felt appreciated. But I also found other ways to appreciate, because not everybody could win the Director's Award. So we would have these temporary duties to far off lands, whether it be Paris or Korea or South Korea or Rome. So whenever these assignments came up, not a lot of the other leaders across the bureau were willing to let their cyber people go for that period of time because they were all in such short supply. But I knew for those who had worked really hard, if I let them go for 6 months, then when they came back, they were going to work even harder. So I think that kind of balanced out the time that they were gone. So, but just really, they knew that they would be rewarded eventually, whether they wanted to move somewhere else or whether they needed my support in other ways. And I made sure that I wanted to give that to them. So again, they work super, super hard, and I want to contribute to how I can help them, do even better in their careers.
Yeah, I see an awesome leader. You probably could have been a colonel in the Marine Corps easily, or a 4-star general, just because you had the natural followers and follow you naturally because you entrusted them to get the mission done. You didn't put the heat on them; you just get it done. So, what type of leadership style did you have? Were you like there's different styles like persuasive, authoritarian? What type was very effective when you worked there? You know what?
You came from the military, so that lead from the front. It's like, okay, we're going to do it this way, and I found, easily by the time I got to the cyber folks, because they were definitely not going to be told what to do by someone who had no technical expertise whatsoever. Right. But I find even today, especially with this workforce, the millennials and beyond, to micromanage is just stealing all creativity. And so and I think micromanaging is based on fear. It's based on fear that you don't want to fail. You don't want your people to fail. You don't want your people's failure to reflect on you. So I think being a micromanager, it's very ego-centered and I think it's ineffective with this workforce because people want to be heard. If you look at the digital age, everybody has an opinion, whether on social media. Everybody expects everyone to listen to their opinion or comment on their opinion or like their opinion. And that's how people are in person too. They expect to have a voice and have their voices heard. And when you come to me and say, hey, I want to do this, but I want to do it this way, for me to tell you, okay, you can do it, but why don't you do it this way? And I give you a way to do it. I'm taking all of that creativity away from you, and now all you're doing is what I want you to do. And so who wants to work in that environment?
Right.
So that's why it's so important for people who are leading this generation to know that, listen to what they have to say. Because maybe even they don't have as much experience that you have, or they haven't led like you have. Mm-hmm. Just because you have an idea doesn't mean that your idea is the best idea. Their idea might be even better than yours. So just being accepting of that, I think that's really helpful in the workforce today.
Wow, that's great advice for those corporate people in those cubicles working away. Now, I know you're looked on as a role model right now, probably in LinkedIn and everywhere else you're at. What's your advice for women who are trying to get out there? They're young women and maybe they're 24, they're 30 years of age, and what's the hope you can offer them? They're struggling. They got a boss that doesn't understand them. Maybe it's a male counterpart, supervisor they just don't get along with. What, after you went through your journey, what advice can you offer those ladies that are listening to you that want to know how you did it?
Gosh, well, I have a podcast called Lead Like a Lady.
Right.
And I feature remarkable women who have made it to the top in male-dominated fields.
Right.
And we have a lot of lessons learned for the women who are coming up behind us. But I would say the biggest lesson that I learned is to lead unapologetically. And I think I had told a friend of mine who was a police chief that I was giving a presentation about leading unapologetically. And he said, well, what does that mean? Because if you're a man, you don't lead,
Right.
with apology. But a lot of times women feel that they, when they ask something or they're leading in some way, they don't want to turn on the heat too much because they feel that maybe they're coming off as being too aggressive or bitchy or whatever, and they don't want to be painted in that light. So they kind of dial it back. So I would say if I could go back in my career, I would lead unapologetically, and it's okay to make people feel uncomfortable by asking them to do something. I mean, or I shouldn't say it's okay to make them feel uncomfortable. What I mean
Right.
is it's not your job to, when you're leading, you can't please everybody all of the time. So you can't apologize for making people, why can't I say what I'm trying to say?
No problem.
I guess the point is I would want to lead unapologetically. I wouldn't want to feel that, am I being too this? Am I being too that? Am I being too strong? Am I being too aggressive? That type of a thing. And I also think it's so important to lead authentically. And that's the reason why I called my podcast Lead Like a Lady. And if someone would have accused me of leading like a lady when I went into the Army or when I was first into the Bureau, I would have been offended by that. But really, what I did, when I went into those environments, I tried to take on the traits of the other men around me, the leadership traits, because I was surrounded by men. And as I evolved as a leader, I learned that, my leadership strengths are communication, relationship building, networking, problem solving. So these are kind of the softer skills or the more of a feminine skill set. But the more I relied on the things I was good at, the better I became as a leader. So, I'm sure you wouldn't want to go, and if you're not a great communicator, you're not going to focus on, okay, well, I need to be a better communicator, so I'm going to lead and I'm going to work on this, as opposed to taking something that you're really, really good at and then contributing that way. So leading authentically is really important as well.
Master in your strength. I think I heard John Maxwell say that at one time.
Yes, it's so important. It really is.
Yeah, I know there's an era right now. My business partners are in the security industry, led the security group, and then he's Canon down here in California, and we have all these jobs coming in, but the problem is nobody wants to work right now, and it's across all industries. My business partner was in Orange County with his daughter having lunch yesterday, and he goes, they couldn't take him in because they can't get their people back because nobody wants to work because they're making $4,000 a month. And I don't know if it's something we need to create, more of a carrot for those younger people to want to go back to work, to give them some motivation or build them dignity again. But we're definitely living in different times.
We are. And that complacency is going to come back into the workplace probably in September when they're no longer getting those benefits. So, so what do we do as leaders to get people to want to come to work every day? That's going to be a big, big challenge and a creative challenge to boot.
Very creative. We had 30 slots to fill, and they can fill 5.
Yeah.
And we're paying $17, $20 an hour. Nobody's responding to Indeed. And Indeed, they said, hey, we have the same problem. We can't get people to work here. Yeah.
Well, it's happening in the restaurants as well. Some restaurants are having limited menus because they can't get people to come in and cook. So, that's definitely going to be a challenge.
And those benefits in September?
I believe so.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then, that's where we as leaders, we need to figure out a way to motivate the people that do come back, because a lot of people are going to be so used to working at home and wearing pajamas every day.
Right.
Pajamas on the bottom and suits on the top. So, that's going to be a big leadership challenge.
And you also own an executive leadership company too, right?
I do leadership consulting and coaching.
Now, have you seen a demand in that side of your business increase lately? Has that blown up on you a little bit at all? Or
It's not necessarily blowing up, but I have folks that I'm working with, and the challenges again are very significant. But a lot of the challenges I think with the clients that I work with, I mean, they come from within. A lot of times we self-sabotage, and it's our negative thoughts, or it's believing that we can't do something, and so we stop trying. So just working with people to recognize that, hey, we can do anything. There's a way to get over the wall, around the wall, under the wall. It's just a matter of believing that you can do it. So I think, especially with women being out of the workforce and then coming back, I think that's been a big setback for women in the workforce this last year. And I had heard something where it's going to take like 7 or 8 years to get back to where we were before COVID. So just working to try and get that confidence for people back to be able to do what it is that they're intended to do.
Yeah, I definitely see it's going to be a drought, I think, through the summertime trying to staff jobs on a security standpoint, get risk, workplace violence, or families flying in from the Middle East having medical appointments in Beverly Hills. Hey, we need 10 guys. We can't find any guys.
Yeah.
They're not there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be problematic just to fill slots going forward. Something else. Oh yeah, I was going to bring up your ebook. You have an ebook you published too, right?
I have 2 ebooks. If you go to GinaLOsborn.com, they're free, 2 free ebooks, and one is on 5 tips to help you work successfully in a male-dominated field.
Nice.
That's for women. And the other one is for everyone, and it's 7 key ways to eliminate chaos from your business and your life.
Wow. So you don't have much downtime because you're so busy in demand right now with all the requests for podcasts. I know I saw your TV show. You're on, I forget what TV show it was, but it was during Valentine's Day weekend.
Yep, Access Hollywood.
Okay.
Talking about romance scams.
Congrats on that. I saw like, holy smoke, that was Gina.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem. That's definitely a problem, especially with COVID. They say that sextortion had gone up like 3 times, when the lockdown started, because people were meeting each other online, and maybe they were going a little too far with either the talking or the doing, and then they were being extorted for it. So yeah, that's a problem. So you really want to make sure you know who you're talking to before you decide to take your clothes off.
Good way to put it. Drop the mic. But really, these scammers, are they actually foreign and got people from the foreign countries trying to get them to wire PayPal money? Is that kind of what's going on?
Well, I'm doing some research, or I did some research on romance scams. And so it's a lot on whether it be Facebook or dating sites, but they're also on gaming sites and even on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm getting hit up on LinkedIn every now and again as well. And that never happened like a year or 2 ago.
That's true.
But essentially, they all have the same, bio. They're all widowed, and they're doctor MDs. They call themselves, I'm a doctor, or a surgeon, surgeon MDs. And then, surgeon doctors is what they call themselves. And they're all like on some sort of humanitarian mission overseas and all of that. But I had interacted with one just to find out where the scam came in. And it was interesting because, he wanted to come to the United States to be with me, of course, because I'm the love of his life, right? And, and so he told me that I needed to request through this email for the United Nations, right? Because he worked for the United Nations, and they needed me to email the head of the United Nations or whoever at this email address was something like united1010nations@outlook.com or something crazy like that, right? So I was supposed to, send this request, and then I was told I had to pay $5,000 in order to get my, my boyfriend back home in order for him to be able to take leave. So, those are those types of scams that are out there. But for, when we want to be in a relationship and someone's saying all of the right things because they're very good at what they do, as far as telling you how wonderful you are, and they really, have the ability to start playing with your emotions. But yeah, I mean, and women are, and men as well, they're sending money and expecting that they're going to pay them back. And so, yeah, I've met women, probably about 6 or 7 women over the last few months who have lost tens of thousands of dollars to these types of scams. And these women, they're not all what you would have, think about. They're not the stereotypical person who would do something like that. I mean, some of these are professional people who are very educated, and yet, they find themselves in a situation where they're interacting with somebody because maybe they're lonely or maybe they're just looking for the perfect person. And these people know how to make themselves look like they're perfect. So
master manipulators.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is don't give anybody any money who you haven't met. That's another thing.
Remember that when you're on Bumble or Match. That's right. Make him meet you at a coffee shop and buy you coffee.
Yeah, exactly. But even that, a friend of mine, she went to coffee with a guy, and then he wound up being a scammer as well. I mean, there are people living, a lot of these folks are from Nigeria or other countries. But I know people who have been scammed by Americans here in the U.S. and and saying, hey, I've got all this money. I used to do this or I used to do that. And then they make themselves look as though they're much more than they are. And, the promise is that I'm going to pay you back. I've got all this property. Of course, I'm going to pay you back. And then they walk away with $70,000, all these loans. And then,
wow.
Yeah. So it happens.
Problematic in our culture, and everybody's been locked up with COVID-19. And now everybody's trying to get released, and they're going to start meeting people, go to parties. And yeah, wow.
Yeah. But like I said, they're very good at what they do. So just be mindful of that. And anybody who's not willing to do some sort of FaceTime with you, make
smart.
sure that you speak to them on the phone to find out if they have an accent, if they're saying they're from Chicago and they've got some sort of, other accent. That's a telltale sign. Yeah, exactly.
Or down in the Caribbean somewhere.
Right.
Haiti.
Yeah, you just have to be mindful of that. And if it looks too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true.
Right. Now, what do you have new exciting going on in your career right now? You got the 2 podcasts for, I think, ranked top 2% in the world right now.
Really?
I looked them up on Listen Notes, and I think, what did it say?
Oh my!
Behind the Crime Scene is ranked 2.5% globally.
Whoa.
And Lead Like a Lady is in the top 3% globally.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds good to me.
Yeah. Well, she is a legend. Here comes Joe Rogan. Miss Joe Rogan.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you, coming up, I've got a lot of public speaking. I'm so excited. On the 10th of June is going to be my first public speaking gig since COVID, so I'm excited about that. I'm going to talk about leading like a lady and leading authentically. And then I've got a couple of other things coming up as well. So I love to speak. I just spoke to an international group last week, and it was just really nice. I'm looking forward to get out from the virtual world and going into the real world to just connect with people again. But I'm all about inspiring and empowering, so that's really a lot of fun. So yeah, I speak, and if you're interested in a speaker, go to GinaLOsborn.com. You can learn more about what I speak about.
Wow, there you go. And I know you're busy, and I know this week was pretty jammed up for you, and you're usually recording throughout the entire week. Every day you do recordings with somebody somewhere.
I do recordings, or I do my own editing. I'm a little I've got a little bit of a control issue going on. I like to do my own editing. So yes, I do that. But my sister does the voiceover. She's a voiceover artist. So she does the intro for it.
And she's up in Santa Barbara doing radio, right?
Yeah, she's a radio personality. Yeah.
Wow. So it's kind of in the blood, kind of in the family DNA.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. She was always the super creative one, the kind of the spirited, free spirit one, and then I was more of the linear, government worker. But when I left the bureau in 2018, that's something that I wanted to do. I wanted to write, and I wanted to tell stories, and I love to tell stories, and I can tell stories all day long. So that's something that I want to focus on right now.
It's in your DNA. Well, congratulations on all your success, and it's a pleasure to have you here in the studio. And yeah, I know I've been asked by a lot of people to be LinkedIn and be on their shows and stuff. And it's an honor to have you. And I'm trying to do more of a push for the ladies out there this spring and summer, bring in more lady guests.
I think that's great. There's a lot of amazing women out there. And thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's always good. And that was the reason why I said yes, was because of your service.
Oh, the Marine Corps paid off again.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Even though you were a Marine. I don't want to say anything.
War stories.
My dad was a Marine,
Was he?
actually. He
Okay.
was. Yeah, he was really happy to know that I was going into the Army.
They probably teach you better. My dad said, well, if you go in the Navy, you have a warm bed to sleep on, and they treat you better, 4 meals a day or whatever. I'm like, that's too easy, Dad.
Yeah.
I want that resume.
The Air Force is the way to go.
The Air Force, yeah. The pilots had it made.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, thanks, for that. And yeah, for you people following Gina, check out her website, check out her 2 podcasts, and she's rocking and rolling, and it's an honor to have her here. And we'll have this probably broken down in a couple episodes. We went up 40 minutes, I think. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.